Israel fears end to 40-year peace on Syrian front. Says here that against a vista of green fields and mountains, all is silent for the gusting wind. Then comes a burst of gunfire from the Syrian civil war. That's what they call it, a civil war. Not a foreign invasion. Raging next door, which is going to embolden Israel, where jihadist rebels that are funded by Obama in the West are battling Assad's troops. So a place that was stolen by Israel, talking about Golan Heights, it was the quietest place on Israel's front lines. A place of hiking trails, bird watching, skiing, and winery. Well, I don't know what else to say there, but they're not in fear because, like I said many times before, that Israel is like a beachhead, and it's basically there for expansion. It's there for wars. So they thrive off violence and wars and conflict. You know, and if they really wanted peace, then they wouldn't be aiding, along with the U.S. and the U.K., Qatar, Saudi Arabia, they wouldn't be funding these terrorists to create this instability inside Syria. The real truth is that the Israelis are concerned about the progress that's going on in Syria. So, and that's why they're playing the chemical weapons card again. So you have U.S. doubts Israel's claim of Syrian chemical weapons use. This is from the 23rd of April. This is what we covered on Wednesday. Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, U.S. unveils Iraq WMD Curveball-Style lies versus Syria. So as NATO terror front collapses in Syria, U.S. attempts to justify intervention by drumming up familiar WMD lies. So how many times have we seen this narrative play out? It's coming directly from Israel. The last 2 weeks have seen a series of victories for the Syrian army across Syria. It appears that the 2 full companies of so-called Free Syrian Army fighters have been annihilated near Damascus, while government forces have restored order in parts of Homs and along the previously porous Lebanese-Syrian border. Time is run out for the West, and it appears that they are desperately seeking any excuse to rescue their failing proxy war. Says U.S. Defense Secretary today, Chuck Hagel, announced that the U.S. has, actually it was yesterday, evidence that the chemical weapons have been used in Syria. This comes a couple days after an Israeli intelligence official says Damascus was using weapons banned under international law against its own people in the country's civil war. So it says here that that Hagel is saying that the intelligence agency's assessment was reached with varying degrees of confidence, meaning that they lacked proof or overwhelming evidence. But hey, don't worry, there'll be videos out there, like this article right here. Syria videos cite toxic attack. Apparent doctor calls for medicine in clip. So I looked at the video. To me, it just seemed like a complete hoax. There was no, it's not like the video that was coming out of Syria like a month ago about the real chemical attack that was carried out by the rebels or terrorists. And basically it was some kind of chlorine bomb. And although there wasn't like hundreds of people that died, people did die, and there was a lot of basically injuries in the hospital. You could see people scurrying about. The footage was kind of broken and intermittent, but you could tell that they were treating people in a rush. You check out that video, it doesn't seem to be that case. Then you have this article, Why Obama's Chemical Weapons Red Line in Syria is Bogus. You can go in there and check that article out. Links will be posted. I think most of us understand that that red line whole thing is coming from, again, Israel. They're the ones that use that phrase, is bogus, just like the video. This is my website, ggnonline.com, and on YouTube my channels are ddarko2012 and ddarko2013. Okay, I'm ready to go here. Israel's spy agency has presence in Syria, says senior rebel general. So they've also been carrying out surveillance of Syria and Russia. There's been reports of terrorists being basically hospitalized inside Israel. It says Israel is one of the countries that maintain a significant intelligence presence inside Syria, according to the top commander of the Syrian rebel forces. This general, chief of staff for the FSA, told CNN that the Jewish state has many, many intelligence officers in various parts of Syria. Syrian incursion imminent? That's the question. Hints from current U.S. naval positions following the dramatic change in rhetoric from D.C. over the past 24 hours regarding the WMDs. It says here that the Middle East and geopolitical risk, those phrases are suddenly back in the same sentence on the lips of those sitting around trading desks, leading to a powerful jump in the oil complex where Brent is having its best day in 4 months. I believe gold is too. As far as the feasibility goes of an armed conflict inside Syria, they go to Stratford's latest weekly update of U.S. naval assets, which shows that if indeed Obama is planning to do his flyover, showing off his Nobel Peace Prize above Damascus, there will be a waiting time of at least several weeks, as there is nothing in the immediate Syrian offshore vicinity to provide necessary naval support. White House says the U.S. may use military force against Syria. This is from RT. The White House says Obama may approve the use of military force against the Syrian government. Early afternoon on Friday, Press Secretary Jay Carney said that the regime has a number of options in regards to handling reports that the Syrian president has used chemical weapons. Obama spoke to reporters hours later about the allegations during a meeting with the Jordan's king. Yeah, he's really aiding them, calling the developments a game changer in terms of how the U.S. might respond. So this is what he said before. He goes, it could be a game changer if they are using it. He said that like a month ago. Horrific as it is when mortars are being fired on civilians by the same terrorists that they're funding and the Jordan's king is aiding, and people are being indiscriminately killed, to use the potential weapons of mass destructions on civilian populations crosses another line with respect to international norms and international law. So, but, you know, I mean, if Obama really believed that, then he would ask why we're being chemically sprayed. We're being sprayed with chemicals, a chemical bombardment of aerosols, real nasty stuff. You may not drop dead from it, but it'll slowly wear you down. And you know, that would be what, against international law, right? Carrying out against humans. So what about the human rights? So I'm sure it can go into a global court right now as far as these chemtrails go, but they have agendas. I mean, it's very obvious. You know, in Bahrain, they just shoot protesters. In Nigeria, how many, like 200 killed? Iraq, 200 killed, all with like in the past week. The Rohingya Muslims, ethnic cleansing that's going on by Buddhist monks in Myanmar. No mention of that, really. And I found it kind of ironic that he used the term, or he was quoted as saying, we did not forget you, when he went down to Texas for the fertilizer plant. Well, no, they did forget them, because, you know, the main operation, the main psychological operation that was going on, that was taking place, was in Boston. It was all about that, and Chechens and Russia, and ooh, Russia, and stuff like that. So they did kind of ignore them. And I saw one article from Blacklisted News saying that, you know, there's some people in the alternative media that are either they're covering it and they're telling people to stay away from it, or they're not covering it at all. I'm not covering that much because it's just so much. It's almost got like my head spinning, and I don't know all the facts. It's just, you got to go in there and just look at it independently for that story, because I just don't know what the hell is going on with it. So, and there's not really a lot of news on it, so it's a lot of speculation. Supporting militants would bring they will bring mortar attacks by the rebels. Will bring more attacks on U.S., says Syria. Syria's Deputy Foreign Minister warned on Thursday that D.C.'s support of Syrian militants threatens the security of the United States as extremists would spread the fire of terrorism around the world. Referring to these extremists, these chickens will go back to roost where they came from, because encouraging terrorism definitely backfires. Once these terrorists succeed in Syria, they will go everywhere. Senator McCain says U.S. must create safe zone for the terrorists in Syria. Says they should make sure that they're not attacked from the air and provide them with weapons of training that they need, and the ability of the Revolutionary Council, a terrorist organization, they call it a Revolutionary Council, to organize and to govern the same way that they did in Libya. And look how that turned out. He's asking for a no-fly zone on that. West must think twice about Syrian military invasion. The international community must carefully consider the military operation in Syria, even if it uses chemical weapons by Assad's forces, as confirmed, says a Middle East expert. Yeah, see, this is the picture from March 19th. This is the one where it was actually government forces that were killed and injured along with civilians. So it doesn't make any sense that they would bomb their own people. And come on, and you can see the kind of rushing around that's going on there. And that was from the March 19th attack. Israel downs drone off coast near Lebanon. Hezbollah denies responsibility for it. An Israeli warplane has shot down a drone off the coast of, Haifa today? So the infiltration with the drone forced a government helicopter carrying Prime Minister Netanyahu sent scrambling. It says, though Israeli overflights into southern Lebanon are so common as to be a virtual non-story, it is virtually unheard of for a plane to cross from the Lebanese side into Israeli airspace. Last time they shot one down too, Israel did, and just today they had 11 Israeli planes over Lebanese airspace. UN approves 12,600 troops for Mali. UN official says not an anti-terrorist operation. They've authorized 12,600-man force dubbed the UN Multi-Dimensional Integrated Stabilization Mission in Mali. They said rather they will be working to impose Malian junta rule on the cities across the northern half of the nation with an eye on promised July elections. So ironically, nearly half of this integrated multi-dimensional space fighting force is expected to come from Chad, meaning the exact same forces that the Chadian government withdrew and insisted weren't up to a guerrilla war in Mali just a week and a half ago are going to be sent back into the exact same situation. Basically the Europeans, mostly French, they wanted the locals to do the dirty work for them. It says here UN troops are going to find themselves expected to do the heavy lifting in a national building operation that's going to be expected to cope with a major insurgency. Attacks grow in Iraq, over 200 killed in 3 days, 50 more killed and fighting in Mosul today. This is post-elections. U.S. Marine Rapid Response Force deploying to Spain base. Spain already has naval bases there, but it says the first of 500 Marines have begun deploying to Spain as part of a new rapid reaction force to respond to threats against U.S. citizens, government personnel, or installations in Africa. So this is part of the diplomat special forces apparatus that we were talking about with Clinton. Oh wow, it's actually in, just notice that, Morón Air Base. I've been there in southern Spain, which provides a quick access to, especially to northern Africa. So this is basically, this is a result of what they're doing, like the things that happen in Libya. They want strike teams to be able to go around and undo the blowback from the regime changes, the destabilization, basically black ops type stuff that's going on. Much like domestically in the United States, where they're training people, police and all that, to be able to, they're all militarized to go on helicopters and stuff and scoop bankers and important people like politicians off from rooftops. That's what I mean. That's why you see black helicopters in Miami and Chicago and that doing all these exercises. NATO looks for allies to station military contingent in Central Asia. So we're talking about the withdrawal, 2014 withdrawal in Afghanistan to take place. However, it remains unknown what type of military contingent will remain in Afghanistan and Central Asia thereafter. Afghanistan is one of the main reasons why Central Asia is so interesting to the West, but other regional players such as China and Russia are also interested in close cooperation with the countries in the region. A couple bases, Uzbekistan and Kyrgyzstan, were basically shut down. Kyrgyzstan has a contract that's going to be expiring in 2014. Uzbekistan seems to be siding with Russia. Tajikistan has been moving more towards NATO and away from Russia. 140 detained in Moscow for connection to Islamist extremist groups, says the Federal Security Service for Russia. It says here the suspects were often visited by people who later converted to radicalism and joined militant groups active in the North Caucasus. It says here as well as participate in preparing and perpetrating terrorist acts in Russia. So this is what those Chechen, quote, Chechen terrorists for the Boston bombing suspects, this is what they would have done. This is what they were trained for. But the threat of basically bringing terrorists, Wahhabists, Salafists, onto Russia's doorstep and creating destabilization, much like the State Department run PSYOPs, these feminist groups and that. So there's part of that, and then of course what we were talking about, how the FSB has grown more, they're big, and are also spreading throughout Europe and outside Russia. And then we were talking about possibly Russia and basically the East and the West uniting their anti-terror units. So this is why I included this. You guys probably know about the Afghan earthquake that hit last week. It killed 9, 5.6. Now look at this. Up to 50 U.S. helicopters in Afghanistan badly damaged in hailstorm. Can you say weather modification, weather wars? Britain controls drones in Afghanistan from UK soil. Koreans still favor reunification despite foreign meddling. 91% of South Koreans believe reunification is necessary. But then again, U.S. South Korea conduct joint naval drill to provoke him a little bit more. Speaking of provocation, Venezuela arrests U.S. citizen for post-vote violence. The president personally ordered him to be arrested on suspicion of fomenting violence. Thank you.